All right, folks, let's wrap up Chapter 8. We talked about missionary selling last time. This time, let's talk about service selling. And again, we're going to start from the perspective of the advertising client. We can also include an ad agency in this particular discussion. These are folks that are already somewhat familiar with the advertising process, so keep that in mind. First off, there's the recognition of needs, determining based on an allocated budget which media to use and when to use them. So they already, again, understand some of the finer details of advertising and some of the things that they're looking for. So they're taking a look at available funding and the media that they have at their disposal. Evaluation of alternatives. This happens in two phases. First phase is when there's the development of a media plan that allocates dollars to the various media it has decided to use, then sends out requests for proposals to the media they've selected, RFP for short. So they've now decided the medium. Now they're looking for the particular outlets that they are going to consider. Then in phase 2, you have the comparing and evaluating of the proposals that have been submitted. Step 4 is the purchase. Once they've looked over the proposals, they've made their decision, the plan then is executed either through a salesperson or they'll do it through a programmatic process online. And then you have the execution, optimization, and verification, the actual running of the ad campaign on the particular media that they have chosen. So that is the client's or ad agency's process for service selling. Now, let's look at the salesperson's perspective. First, the salesperson has to find the decision makers. In selling to advertising agencies, you don't have to prospect to find businesses that have advertising budgets. The agency has already done that for you. Advertising clients have already made agreements with the ad agency, so the ad agency is working on behalf of their client to procure them the advertising. Now, finding what department in an agency and what person in a media department makes these different decisions, and then identifying what person makes the buying decisions, that's the first step, because it's not always going to be the same person. It's not always the same title that you look for from agency to agency. So it can be a bit of a process to find the proper person within an ad agency that a salesperson needs to talk to. So that's finding the decision makers. Once that has happened, then you go into the step of educating. Now, educating is a little different here in that, the ad agencies are already fairly savvy. If you're dealing with a direct client that's currently in an advertising campaign, they know a little bit of what's going on already. But what happens here in this educating step as a service seller is that you create value for your medium with the agency media strategists and the planners. You're basically stating your case here as to why they should choose your particular medium and or your particular media outlet. Step 3, researching insights and solutions. Media salespeople need to conduct research on insights and solutions for specific agency accounts that will convince those responsible for writing the request for proposal or creative brief to include a specific media outlet or platform. This is where some of the different tools that salespeople have in doing different research on various industries, different consumers, what they're looking for when they make certain purchases of products or services, whether those particular people that make those purchases are involved in consuming content on their particular platform, providing that information to an ad agency or to a client can be extremely valuable to them and make a strong assistance for you in stating your case. Because if you have the audience that a particular advertising client is looking for, and you show that that particular demographic is actually interested in and purchases the kinds of things they offer, that's a real strong case for the things that you have to offer. Step 4, proposing. Presenting a specific, tailored, customized solution or big idea. And then when you finally mention price, talk about terms and conditions. So this is that presentation step. You make the initial offer. Then the rest of the steps should be somewhat familiar, negotiating and closing. So this is the step where you get the order for a firm commitment to buy. There may be some back and forth talking about price and particular benefits and things that are included in the advertising package. And then you go into customer success or account management. It's executing the sales contract and doing all the things that you said you would do. Some charts and graphs might be very helpful for you in picturing this process. Take a look at those things in your textbook. Now, let's talk about the criteria used for making a decision. During prospecting and qualifying in missionary selling, it's going to be important in this step to discover what criteria a prospect will use in evaluating media and making a decision to invest in advertising. Try to find out what that thing is that's going to bring them over the edge, or what sort of standard they're looking for, and then meet or exceed that. Again, do it ethically, do it without over-promising things, but you want to present yourself in a way that what you have is so attractive that it's going to meet all of their needs and they're going to make that decision to go with you. If the criteria for evaluating a media investment are not ideal, you might need to educate the prospect on other decision criteria to consider that might produce better results. So it may be that a client is expecting a particular medium to do a certain thing for them, and the approach they want to use might not be in their best interest to do so. The example I use all the time is if a supermarket were to advertise on radio, but basically read off the things that they put in their weekly circular. You know, the sales, you got $4 canned vegetables or whatever else they're selling that particular week. It's difficult for someone listening on the radio to be able to pay attention to that and get the information they need for something like that. So perhaps a image campaign or something that highlights a particular department in the grocery store might be a better fit for their advertising dollars in that particular medium. And when they talk about things from that from the quality or features perspective of the supermarket, it could actually do better than just saying, we got cheap stuff on these particular items this particular week. In service selling to an agency, you will typically know what the agency's decision criteria are going to be. So it's less of a challenge to try to figure out and deduce what's going on there, because the ad agency is going to be fairly upfront with what they want to do, how much they're willing to spend. Most of the time, they've already got the advertising campaign figured out. It's just a matter of whether they're going to advertise with you in particular or with somebody else. So that's a very basic overview of the selling process, looking at it from both the perspective of the buyer and from the salesperson. And we saw it with both missionary and sales selling. So go ahead, finish the notes, finish the study questions, finish the survey, and let's talk a little bit about the process when we get together for class. Bring your questions, bring your thoughts. Does the flow of things, the order of operations, make sense to you? Is there anything else that should happen? Is there maybe something we shouldn't do? Let's talk about that when we get together.